Hey, what's happening, y'all? Welcome back to the Media Goose channel. It is I, the Media Goose, your friend Ryan, and the goose is loose, baby. Huh? I'm coming at you today to talk about The Punisher: One Last Kill. So obviously, Daredevil Born Again Season 2 ended last week. This is the first week that we don't have a new episode of Daredevil, but thankfully, we do have a special presentation for Frank Castle. I gotta say, I really love the way that Marvel and Disney have been executing these special presentations. Werewolf by Night was also one of my favorite things they've done. The Guardians Christmas special was excellent. So these special presentations are a really cool addition to the MCU. And like I said, Daredevil Season 2 ended. Now we have The Punisher. We obviously have Spider-Man Brand New Day right around the corner. And we saw The Punisher in that trailer. So the events of this special presentation take us right up to the events of Brand New Day for Frank Castle. And this is dark. They are not shy about some very heavy subject matter here. The beginning of this special starts with Frank Castle doing pull-ups while his hands are bleeding, and he's screaming at the top of his lungs. He's swigging from a handle of liquor while he's taking pills, vomiting. Frank is in a bad place. And he's clearly spiraling. We jump over to Little Sicily, and it shows just streets are falling apart. It's basically like war. It feels like The Purge a little bit. And we meet this homeless Marine who has a dog with him, and it's really just sweet. And then these punks roll up and attack him and steal his dog and throw it into oncoming traffic where it gets hit by a truck. Jesus Christ. That was a lot. The streets are in chaos. And then we cut back to Frank, and Frank is in the throes of some severe PTSD. It is... it's really well depicted, I think. I suffer from PTSD, not from war like Frank Castle, but the way it tracks Frank's mind through those episodes was really authentic. And then we see Frank cutting himself on the chest while he's seeing all of his Marine brothers around him. He's reciting the oath of the reconnaissance Marine. I'm assuming it's like an oath of some sort that he was reciting, and he's hallucinating all of his brothers, including Kurt, who we know is like one of his closest friends. Kurt, I'm pretty sure, was in the Punisher series, season 1. And it's heartbreaking. It's devastating early on, this thing. It is deep and intense, and Frank is always portrayed as damaged in the way that Jon Bernthal does it, but this was another level. These first few minutes, there's a scene coming up where I'm going to talk about something that I was about to say, but I'll wait. And then it's just Frank and Kurt, and Frank says, "I need some help." And it is so vulnerable and raw. Jon Bernthal was sensational in this. And it shows Frank locking away all of his weapons. He takes the keys and he actually leaves his apartment. And we see him go to a little shop down the road from his apartment to get coffee. there's a guy in there that's like tweaking, and the shop owner is trying to be kind to the man, but also the guy's tweaking and freaking out and making a scene, and they end up kicking him out. The shop owner has a daughter who's seeing it all, and while the daughter is sitting there, the news is showing um that the gnocchi, I almost said gnocchi, but I think it's gnocchi family has been slaughtered, and it shows pictures of Frank, and it says they don't know about his whereabouts, and the little girl sees him waiting in line. Um, and through this whole section, it's really, really well executed in the way that Frank is calm in chaos. He talked about in the famous scene with Daredevil in the graveyard how the war part of things was never hard for him. And the way the sound design morphed the chaos of the streets around him into just military noise, like choppers and bullets, and it's white noise, but PTSD white noise. The world around him is at war, but his coping, his healing mechanisms just project that outwardly, and he's completely calm in the chaos. And it's really kind of haunting because people are being attacked, innocent people are being attacked, and Frank is totally turned off to it. And Frank, this is the first time I think Frank notices that he's being tailed, and then Frank goes to see his family at a graveyard, and this is intense. This is a lot. It's like Daredevil season 2 episode 4 where he's at the graveyard again, where he sits down and he says his piece, and basically Frank feels like he did his job and now he doesn't know who he is. It's kind of like the old philosophy, I think Loki said it about Captain America, that he can't exist without war. That's kind of like Frank here. Without an objective, without a clear thing in mind, he can't exist. It was the same way for Bullseye in Daredevil. And he says, I'm tired. I'm just so tired. That messed me up because I doom scroll on Facebook Reels a lot, and I saw this one where a guy was saying, if a man ever says to you, I'm just so tired, get him help. Because any person that ever said those words to me, the next thing that happened was them. And then Frank takes out a gun and looks like he's about to go through with it. I'm going to be careful about the way I phrase things so YouTube doesn't strike anything. So I can't use all of the verbiage to describe what's happening, but it is incredibly intense. And right as he's about to do it, flashbacks of his family begin, and he sees his daughter and his wife and his son. And when, oh my God, when Punisher had that monologue in the graveyard with Matt, he talked about how when he came back from war, he couldn't make love to his wife, he couldn't read books to his daughter, he couldn't be there for his son. And then they showed us that here. Oh my God, it was devastating. And the flashbacks cut to his family bleeding in his home, and then it cuts to the circus ride where he lost everything. This was heartbreaking to watch Frank go through all of this. And Jon Bernthal, again, just what a performance. And when his daughter appears to him and then he screams, come back, come back. Oh my God. Heartbreaking. And then, as Frank is returning home, Mama Gnocchi approaches. And she tells a story to Frank about how she lost her entire family just like he did. And she's very warm to Frank at first. Sees a kid running by and is like, oh, he's so cute. Look at that. And she's very warm. And then it starts to turn. And Frank turns and realizes what's happening, realizes who she is. And the performance by this actress is just sensational. This is really her only scene in the entire special, but it was masterfully delivered. Oh my goodness. The matriarch of the family, she said she'd put a bounty on their head. She describes Frank like an animal, and in the sound design, there's like lion roars coming up, light ones, but you hear it. Oh my goodness. And when she describes the way her final son, she lost her final son, and my God, that was all just so effectively done. Her explaining the way she lost them and them showing it and never showing us who was doing it, and the reveal that it was Frank. Oh my God. She spits in Frank's face. She says that at 6:47, the time that Frank took her boy, her prince, she's going to send everyone after her. She's going to post the address and put a hit out on Frank's head. Oh my God, this line was incredible. She says, "You didn't finish anything, Frank. I'm the one doing the punishing now." Holy shit. That whole monologue by that woman, breathtaking. And then she drives off in her little motorized scooter thing, flipping the bird to Frank. Says, "I'm going to watch you die." What a scene. And now we're kicked off. So Frank just left the key to all of his weapons at his family's graves, and now he has like an army of assassins coming to get him. This is wild. And then when Frank gets back to his apartment, who should appear but Karen Page? And Karen is vicious. Karen says to him, what she says is just devastating. You didn't want to be dad. You didn't want to be a husband. None of that costume would have ever fit you. You failed them. And Frank kind of breaks and he says, "Are you here? Are you really here?" And it's just, oh my God, the devastation. Frank hallucinating and having to ask, "Is this really you?" And she says, "Yeah, I'm here, Frank." And they hug and you think she's actually there. And then she says, "I'm always here." And it's like, shit, she's not there. But then she says, "What time is it?" Frank looks at the clock. It is 6:47. And here we go. This was breathtaking. Frank watching out of the peephole, and it's almost like he doesn't even know if it's real. He's just watching, processing it, and then the gasoline comes under the door, and the fire starts, and we have Frank Castle on fire, the Punisher on fire, diving into battle, and he gets into the apartment across the way with that kid who he saw earlier, the kid that ran by earlier. And oh my God, he wrecks these fools. And again, he has no guns. So he has to use all of the weapons of the people trying to kill him. And the moment he gets a shotgun, it's like it's over for these bitches. This was like John Wick. This was like the best of the Daredevil hallway fight scenes. Oh my God, Frank Castle just screaming at the top of his lung as he is wrecking these people. There's no wasted movement, no wasted ammunition. And he's like starting to go out of his way to save people as well. Where earlier he was just walking through it all, numb to it. Now Frank is becoming a hero again. And then everybody gets up on this roof with him. And it's like a zombie horde attacking him. It's wild. And Frank takes out a bunch of them. But then he gets thrown off of a fucking roof. And then he lands on a scaffolding, somebody falls and he has to dive off. It's brutal. He's spitting up blood and he's chasing the Manyoki and he's fighting people off in the meantime. And as he's about to go pursue her, he hears that little girl calling for her daddy, the one from the shop earlier. And he's looking at the woman he wants to kill, and he's looking at innocent people that need help, the shop owner and his daughter and his wife. That is literally the moment the Punisher became a hero, when he decided to go fight for the innocent. And man, I just got goosebumps thinking about when he gets to that corner store and wrecks everybody in there. Oh my goodness, this is Frank Castle at like the peak of his powers. Like, we've never seen him like this. It is brutal. It is incredible, frankly. And then this big Nazi looking guy, I think I saw an SS tattoo on him. He comes in and he's messing Frank up, and then Frank kills him with a pen. And like he's holding the pen, so there's only like this much of it sticking out. And he is stabbing this guy like 10, 15 times with this much of a pen before he finally kills him. Oh my God, this whole special is unrelenting and brutal. And the shop owner comes in. The little girl first runs up and hugs Frank. Oh my God, I started crying at this point. And then the father comes back in. They're all thanking him. It was just beautiful. The little girl's name was Charlie, and she gives him a flower that she made, like a little arts and crafts flower. I was full on crying at that point. Like, I started crying a little when she hugged him, and then she gave him the flower, and I was sobbing. Oh my God. What? The simplicity of how effective this special was. And then he goes back to the grave and he tells his daughter that he's going to keep going. Oh my goodness, it was beautiful. The last time he's sitting in that graveyard, he's ready to give up. After everything that he was experiencing with his PTSD, he was ready to give in. And then, by the end, he's found purpose. He says, I met someone. She reminded me of you. My goodness. And then he recites 1 batch, 2 batch, penny and dime. Papa Bear's a baker and so am I. Frank Castle is one of the greatest superhero characters ever. This special was chef's kiss. Oh, I cried a lot watching that. The beginning with all of the PTSD and the beautiful way they shot that. I have had episodes that are so palpable that they feel real and it feels like you cannot escape. Oh my goodness, it was art. It was not gratuitous for the sake of it. And then we have Frank fully as the Punisher with his full suit, as we're going to find him in Brand New Day. There's 2 innocent people walking down the street, and that punk earlier who attacked the Marine and killed the dog is about to swing a bat on this lovely older black couple. And notice, both times those punks attacked somebody, they were black people. That's the racism involved as well. And Frank just truck sticks this guy to the ground, picks him up and puts his knife within a centimeter of his eyeball. And that homeless Marine from earlier says, yo, devil dog. So right off the bat, he knows that's a Marine. And I clocked as soon as I saw the Marine wearing that hat, the USMC. As soon as he walked into the scene, I was like, that's going to matter. And he says, devil dog, that's my, I think he said lid. That's my lid. And he starts to run away after Frank gives it back to him. And the guy says, that's not all he took from me. Frank takes a hatchet out and just tomahawk. The guy like freezes and falls like he's been tased. Frank walks over, looks back at that Marine, looks back, bang, the Punisher. This was flawless. This was everything I could have hoped it would be with Frank Castle. The stuff with the PTSD, like I've said multiple times now, was so visceral and real and moving and heartbreaking. Jon Bernthal's performance, the performance of the matriarch of that family was incredible. That little girl gave such a sweet performance. It was so sincere. Even just the cafe owner, the father. He's a father fighting for his family. And Frank stood up for that. Frank Castle's a hero again. And I gotta tell you, in terms of the Matt Murdock, Karen Page argument they always have about life and death, and do you do it Daredevil's way or do you do it the Punisher's way? In the world we live in, it's hard not to feel like we need a Punisher. And this kind of Punisher, not the people that co-op it and wear that insignia like the Daredevil series so eloquently points out. This was excellent. This was a perfect conclusion to what I think will probably be the end of like that super violent, bloody Punisher. He'll still kill people, probably, but I just feel like he's kind of found his North Star again, and it's his daughter, and doing right by his daughter and protecting children and families and the innocent. And that is so beautiful. And I can't wait for him to come in and mess around with Peter Parker. So y'all, let me know what you thought of the Punisher One Last Kill. I think that it was absolutely perfect. Thank you for hanging out today. The Goose is out. Huh?